Avengers Doomsday is creatively bankrupt, and here's why. Has anybody noticed that Avengers Doomsday is looking more and more pathetic as the leaks continue? With old actors like Robert Downey Jr. and now Chris Evans, confirmed to be in the film, are now being forced to pick up the pieces of Marvel's incessant shitstorms of slop that have been released in the last 5 years. I'm sure plenty of other fans and creators alike can't help but admit that Avengers Doomsday is creatively bankrupt. Not too long ago, I mentioned this fact on my podcast with my cousin. Go check it out if you're interested. Link in the description. I briefly touched upon Jesus. I didn't touch myself. I briefly touched up on a couple of points that I'm going to make in this little rant here. First, let's just get the cat out of the bag right now. Obviously, the nostalgia bait is pathetic. I mean, it's easily the most pathetic thing that's like happening in this film that we have seen so far. The amount of cast members is absolutely absurd. The characters that they've been primarily setting up are barely even present in this gigantic film that they've been quote-unquote building up for, like they tried to do with the first Avengers. It makes zero sense why they wouldn't include half the characters they've been building up. The most of the cast list is just the old X-Men cast, like James Marsden, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Magneto. Like, they have to resort to casting the 2000s X-Men. Think about how long it's been since that movie came out. 26 fucking years, and mind you, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen aren't getting any younger out here. You know what I mean? They're practically just a walking pile of bones. No disrespect to them. They're great. They're fantastic actors, especially in their prime, but they were playing old men back then. So it's almost absurd now that they're still being dragged out just to save this god-awful attempt of a sequel. There's still no mention of the character that they've been hyping up. We have only seen Shang-Chi in one film, no other films. It's like, I heard that was actually a good one. I haven't seen it, but I heard it's like actually one of the better ones that come out post-Endgame, but they've barely seen that dude. Not that we really need to, but it's just like empty promises after empty promises, and I just don't understand what their logic is. Nostalgia bait is bad because it's just disrespectful to the movies that did work. Because the classic X-Men has a cult following, it did well for a reason. The first giant like superhero film, besides Blade, that kind of just like bolstered it, and it worked. You know, Bryan Singer's X-Men was great. They had like a message, and they said their piece. That story was told. It's done. They had a set beginning, middle, and end. 3 movies. Some even more. They expanded upon it a little bit. I remember seeing Days of Future Past. That was the perfect send-off for them, really. How many times are we going to send these characters off? To be fair, they've said that it was going to be the ending, and then they keep bringing them back, and then they end it again, bringing them back, reintroduce characters, reboot them, like in Dark Phoenix. They're bringing back franchises that have been buried in the ground for a while, just because they want asses in seats. It's just desperate. Disney has more money than God. It's one of the top stocks in the stock exchange. The problem Disney has is that they're creatively bankrupt because they're trying to please everybody. Everybody knows what happens when you try to please everybody. You please no one. Make it a good fucking story. How can you really expand upon these characters when they've just been alive and resurrected and buried so many times? It's just so frustrating. How can you even do them justice too when there's too many other actors you have to fit in on top of the X-Men cast, which is like the primary cast that the MCU has been building up since post-Endgame, which should have been Sam Wilson, which should have been I can't even remember what kind of movies they had out. Like, dude, the only thing I remember is Brave New World, which was ass. I never saw the Marvels. All the shows didn't fucking matter. Agatha didn't fucking matter. What If didn't matter. Ironheart sure as shit didn't matter. Thunderbolts was good, but it's not enough. It's just not enough to build on. You know, the whole ordeal has just a lack of direction. Like, last 5 years meant nothing. Another problem, and not even just the film industry, but I think just entertainment in general, just a lot of it's just quantity over quality. There's just such an abundance of everything nowadays. It's just like, sometimes, like, I don't want to say variety is a bad thing, but sometimes, like, when you make too much, you forget what makes that thing that you're making good in the first place. Because you have to, like, really, if you want to make something quality, it requires meditation, it requires a message, it requires themes, it requires effort. You know what I mean? You can't have a certain show designate to one certain audience. You should make just one thing to appeal to everybody. You shouldn't have to like min-max entertainment in TV shows and films. Like, that's not the point. The point is just to have everybody will enjoy the same thing and not just like target towards a certain audience. If you are going to do that, if you are going to cater to a certain audience, have it so it makes sense for people that aren't a part of that audience. You know what I mean? Let's say if I were to watch a film about like, you know, black culture. I'm not black. I'm pretty sure anyone who's seen Boys in the Hood, black or not black, that's going to resonate with you because it really just dives deep into the idea of crime and governments being greedy by keeping neighborhoods poor so they can just profit off real estate, you know, all that stuff. You got to make it appeal to everybody, tie it into the human experience. That's the easiest way to put it. You got to give it substance so that everybody can at least care or understand why you're making this piece of media or why you're telling this sort of story instead of just making the characters and their traits superficial or try to like be political every 2 fucking seconds, or everything needs to be like a statement about your identity or gender politics, whatever.
You have to stop calling them terrorists. There's still people in there.
This is the only language these people understand.
It just seems like everything has to be a political statement with Disney. There's no true passion about anything, or at least not as much as it used to be. They're creatively bankrupt because they're afraid to push the button that might cause people to be shocked or they might make them a little uncomfortable. They're just afraid that some asshole's going to go on Twitter and berate them, which, to be honest, if they keep making slop, they're just going to get berated anyway. The media they make is to please the media and shareholders and the loud minority rather than the collective majority of people. They're not making media for humans anymore. They're making them for products of society as a way to consume more instead of like trying to tell a genuine story. When you tell a genuine story, the money will just come naturally. So if you make any piece of art that touches somebody's heart with the story you're trying to tell, you got a fan for life. And that's how people fell in love with these characters. They're just ignoring what made the comics so popular. They're not relating to the audience, you know what I mean? They're not relating to the human experience, which is the whole point of superhero media. If they want to fix this, it's simple. You just got to start small and focus, strip away all the BS and just get to the nitty-gritty, get to the bare bones of what makes these characters so appealing in the first place. Like with Iron Man. Like, that was a beautiful retelling. It was pretty close to the original comic. You know, he was a jackass before, but they used a modern lens because it was a modern film for the time. Total sleazebag, and then a shrapnel-filled irony bomb hit him in the fucking chest, and then he had to use his God-given talents, just his intellect, to make something of himself, all by himself, like stripped away of all his money, power, whatever. And he actually made something, and it formed a genuine connection with that dude in the cave.
With a bunch of scraps!
He made a suit and busted out of there, right? And then he took it upon himself to reinvent his company and his legacy as a weapons manufacturer to a superhero. That's what made Iron Man so popular. It was a deconstruction of the billionaire, and that was interesting. What if some rich asshole had a revelation that made him change for the better? Iron Man proved to us that anybody can change. They're trying to bring at least a little bit of that essence back by making him Dr. Doom. They're turning him from a guy that played an asshole to a good guy and ended off as a good guy, and now they're bringing him back as an asshole. It's almost like a spit in the face of his legacy as Iron Man, but whatever. Focus on the X-Men. You don't gotta race swap anything either, by the way. That's a whole other issue. But mutants are seen as less than, or something to fear, or just like a whole different species compared to humans. And they're targeted because of that, because they're different. And it's like an allegory for racism. So tell a story. You can use that to tell a really gripping story. If they're so hell-bent on being political, shit, like, I mean, the X-Men have always been political. I don't like politics in filmmaking, but like, you know, in order to make it a good X-Men story, it's gotta be like a little bit political. And Magneto, perfect anti-hero, you know what I mean? He could be like the Loki of like the reboot, you know what I mean? He is a fantastic character. There's a lot of depth in that whole IP they have. But I doubt they're going to use it. If they want to succeed, they have to go back to basics. All the Disney writers need to go back to school, I'm telling you. That's enough about that. I just want to personally thank every single one of you guys for just taking the minute out of your day just to listen to me and watch my content, and just even those that comment like stuff that I don't necessarily like. I appreciate you because, you know, it shows that you're engaged in what I'm making. You know, as long as we can have a discussion, then you're more than welcome to having a difference in whatever. You can hate me for making this video for all I care. A comment really is powerful. Express yourself, and God knows we need more of that in everyday life. We really do, because, you know, it's so easy just to be a consumer and just not think for yourself nowadays. It really is. Thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers. I know we're at 120 right now. If just one person is engaged in anything that I make, that's more than enough for me, man. Like, dude, I'm just here just to express my thoughts and express my passion. You guys have given me the opportunity to do that, and I'm very grateful. I've been Reklaw. See you guys in the next one.